Okay, this is a continuation of the solution to the FFT example problem that I put up on the review material. Okay, so where we are is we've just derived the butterfly equations, and now what I want to do is show how you apply that for some specific cases. The k equal 4 butterfly and the k equals 6 butterfly. Of course, if I'm going to merge together two 8s to get a 16, I have to go k equals 0 all the way out to 7. Okay, so we're just doing 2 out of the 7 just to illustrate the point. Okay. All right, so I repeated the butterfly equations here just for convenience, and so one thing you can do is just plug things in just to see how things work out. All right, so if I'm going to do k equal 4, there would be a 4 there. K is equal to 4. G of 4 plus Wn4 H of 4. So I need to make this equation, okay, make a signal diagram for this equation. Okay, so I'm going to do that. I'm going to choose orange. Okay. All right, so if I want x of 4, I have to tap from G of 4, and I get that here. Okay, and then notice for the h's, it's always W and K, either for the upper half or the lower half of the butterfly. Okay, so I'm going to put the W's right on the line coming out of H. Okay, it can split off, but then this way we only have to do one multiplication instead of 2. Okay, so on H4, I would have Wn4. So Wn, I'm going to change the color. Wn4. Okay. All right, so I'm going to tap off from H of 4 multiplied by Wn4. So this comes from here to here. All right. So do you see that implements this equation? If I look at x of 4, I have x of 4 is g of 4 plus Wn4. That's where this multiplication happens, times h. And then I move that whole thing up to x4. All right. So hopefully you see that. If not, you'll need to come talk to me about it, because that's the key step, is to understand how you put things together with a signal diagram. Okay, that's only half of the butterfly, right? You have the other half they have to worry about. Okay, so if I look at that equation, n is 16, and so n over 2 is 8. All right, so I'm now looking at g of k plus 8. Okay, so 4 plus 8 is x of 12. X of 12 is going to be g of 4 minus Wn4 h of 4. Okay, so we're going to implement that equation for the other part of the butterfly. All right, so going back to orange, here's x12. I tap off from G4 to get that. Okay, then I need a minus Wn4 times h of 4. Well, I've already formed the Wn4, right? Because coming right out of h, I multiply by Wn4. So all I need to do now is go from h of 4 and multiply by minus 1. Okay, which really indicates that at this stage I'm simply subtracting. Okay, so there you go. That's the k equal 4 butterfly. All right, that's all I would expect on the exam for that particular butterfly. We're going to still have to label the inputs. All right, let's do k equals 6 first, and then we'll label the inputs. Okay, so if I repeated this with k equals 6, the only thing that changes here is that I change the k value. Okay, so I would be looking at x of 6 is equal to g of 6 plus Wn6 h of 6. And then the other half of the butterfly, I add 8. 6 plus 8, I have x of 14 is g of 6 minus wn6 h of 6. Okay, so those are the two equations that form the butterfly. You get x of 6 and x of 14. Okay, so coming from x6, I need g of 6. Okay, so that comes here. All right, and then I also need w in 6 times h of 6, so that would be tapped off here. All right, so that's the top half of the butterfly. To get the bottom half, I did the same thing with g of 6 down to x of 14. Okay, and then h of 6 with a minus sign. Okay, so that would go from here to here, minus 1. Okay, now the next question is, it shows you need to label these inputs, and what we know is that when we merge from 2/8 to a 16, we start out by taking the even values, so this would be x of 2, x of 4, 6, so forth. And then the bottom half of this would be the odd values. 2 is not odd. Okay, so that answers parts C and D. Okay, so the next thing is looking at how to count the calculations. I think I'm going to cut this video off here and we'll pick it up with a new video to do parts E, F, and G.